The island of Hispaniola, nestled in the heart of the Caribbean, was a jewel in the crown of the French Empire. Its strategic location and fertile lands made it an invaluable asset, a place where the ambitions of European powers played out in stark contrast to the lives of those who toiled there. By the late 18th century, the western portion, known as Saint-Domingue, had become the world's leading producer of sugar. The lush fields of sugarcane stretched as far as the eye could see, a testament to the colony's agricultural prowess and the insatiable demand for sugar in Europe. This wealth, however, was built on a foundation of inhumanity, the brutal system of slavery. Enslaved Africans were forcibly brought to the island, torn from their homelands and subjected to unimaginable hardships. Their labor was the engine that drove the colony's prosperity. On the backs of nearly 500,000 enslaved Africans, Saint-Domingue generated immense fortunes for French plantation owners and filled the coffers of the French monarchy. The wealth extracted from the island was staggering, yet it came at an incalculable human cost. The lives of the enslaved were defined by relentless labor, violence, and the constant threat of death. From dawn until dusk, they worked under the watchful eyes of overseers, their every move monitored and controlled. Work on the sugar plantations was grueling and dangerous. The process of harvesting and processing sugarcane was labor-intensive and fraught with peril. Enslaved people faced the risk of injury from sharp tools and heavy machinery, and the grueling pace of work left little room for rest or recovery. Enslaved people toiled under the scorching Caribbean sun, cutting cane and processing it in mills with unforgiving machinery. The heat was oppressive, and the physical demands of the work were relentless. Yet they had no choice but to endure, driven by the ever-present threat of punishment. Punishments for even the smallest infractions were brutal, ranging from whippings to mutilations. The overseers and plantation owners used fear as a tool to maintain control, ensuring that the enslaved population remained subjugated and compliant. The average lifespan for an enslaved person in Saint-Domingue was a mere 7 years after arriving from Africa. The journey across the Atlantic was harrowing, and many did not survive the passage. Those who did were met with a life of unending toil and suffering. The colony's wealth was directly proportional to the suffering it inflicted. The more sugar that was produced, the greater the profits for the French elite, and the greater the misery for the enslaved workers. The opulent lifestyles of the French planters with their grand houses and lavish parties stood in stark contrast to the misery and deprivation endured by the enslaved population. The wealth and luxury enjoyed by the few were built on the backs of the many, creating a society marked by extreme inequality. This glaring disparity, the inherent injustice of a system that treated human beings as mere commodities, planted the seeds of resentment and rebellion. The enslaved people of Saint-Domingue were not passive victims. They harbored a deep desire for freedom and a determination to resist their oppressors. The brutality of slavery in Saint-Domingue was not merely a matter of individual cruelty. It was a systematic dehumanization designed to maximize profit and maintain control. The entire colonial system was built on the exploitation and dehumanization of the enslaved population. It was a systematic dehumanization designed to maximize profit and maintain control. The overseers and plantation owners implemented a regime of terror, using violence and intimidation to keep the enslaved population in check. This system, however, sowed the seeds of its own destruction by creating a population desperate for freedom and willing to fight for it. The desire for liberty and justice burned brightly in the hearts of the enslaved, and their resistance would ultimately lead to the downfall of the brutal regime that had oppressed them for so long. Beneath the surface of this brutal regime, resistance simmered. The enslaved Africans, subjected to unimaginable hardships and stripped of their basic human rights, found ways to resist and defy their oppressors. Their spirit of resistance was not easily extinguished, and it manifested in various forms, both subtle and overt. Enslaved Africans, despite being stripped of their freedom and dignity, never surrendered their hope for liberation. They held on to the belief that one day, they would break free from the chains of bondage. This hope was a powerful force that kept their spirits alive, even in the darkest of times. It was a beacon of light that guided them through the harsh realities of their daily lives. They nurtured their cultural traditions, passing down stories of their homelands and clinging to their ancestral beliefs. These traditions were a source of strength and resilience, providing a sense of identity and continuity. Through songs, dances, and rituals, they kept their heritage alive, creating a cultural tapestry that was rich and vibrant. This cultural preservation was an act of defiance, a way to assert their humanity in the face of dehumanization. These shared experiences fostered a sense of community and solidarity, laying the groundwork for organized resistance. The bonds formed in these communal gatherings were unbreakable, forged in the crucible of shared suffering and hope. They supported each other, providing emotional and psychological sustenance. This sense of community was crucial in maintaining their resolve and determination to fight for their freedom. Secret gatherings took place under the cover of night, away from the watchful eyes of slave masters and overseers. These clandestine meetings were a lifeline, a space where they could speak freely and plan their next moves. The darkness provided a cloak of anonymity, allowing them to strategize without fear of immediate retribution. These gatherings were a testament to their ingenuity and resourcefulness. In hushed tones they shared news, whispered hopes, and planned for a future free from oppression. Every whispered word was a spark of rebellion, a seed of revolution. They discussed escape routes, coordinated rebellions, and shared information about the movements of their oppressors. These conversations were the lifeblood of their resistance, fueling their collective resolve to break free from the shackles of slavery. These clandestine meetings were not merely expressions of discontent, they were strategic planning sessions for what would become one of history's most significant uprisings. The level of organization and coordination required for such an undertaking was immense. They meticulously planned every detail, from the timing of the rebellion to the roles each participant would play. This strategic approach was crucial in ensuring the success of their efforts. Leaders emerged from within the enslaved population, individuals who possessed the charisma, intelligence, and courage to unite and inspire their fellow captives. These leaders were visionaries, able to see beyond the immediate suffering to a future where freedom was possible. They were able to articulate this vision in a way that resonated deeply with their fellow enslaved individuals, galvanizing them into action. Figures like the Vodou priest Dutty Boukman, who used his spiritual authority to inspire and mobilize the enslaved. Boukman's role was pivotal, as he was able to tap into the deep spiritual and cultural roots of the African diaspora, using Vodou ceremonies to unite and empower the enslaved. His leadership was instrumental in transforming their collective anger and frustration into a cohesive and powerful movement. And the military strategist Georges Biassou, who brought his tactical acumen to the forefront of the resistance. Biassou's military expertise was invaluable, providing the strategic framework needed to challenge the well-armed and organized colonial forces. His ability to plan and execute complex military operations was a key factor in the success of the rebellion, played pivotal roles in galvanizing the enslaved and channeling their anger into a force for change. Their speeches and actions inspired countless others to join the cause, creating a ripple effect that spread throughout the enslaved population. These leaders were able to harness the collective energy of the oppressed, turning it into a powerful force for liberation. The Haitian Revolution was not a spontaneous outburst of rage, but the culmination of years of planning and preparation. The meticulous planning and strategic foresight demonstrated by the leaders and participants were crucial in ensuring the success of the revolution. They understood that achieving their goal of freedom required careful coordination and unwavering determination. The enslaved Africans of Saint-Domingue, drawing strength from their shared heritage and fueled by a burning desire for freedom, meticulously laid the groundwork for the storm to come. Their unity and determination were the driving forces behind the revolution, and their legacy continues to inspire movements for justice and equality around the world. The story of their resistance is a testament to the power of the human spirit and the enduring quest for freedom.